Welcome on in. This is the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. I'm Haley Stasiak here with Jordan Ham. We are in week 2 action now. The season's moving right along. Quick kickoff here for our rundown. Our first guest today is going to be Cactus head coach Joe Ortiz. Then we'll have Higley quarterback Spencer Brash and Las Vegas Review-Journal's Justin Emerson to break down that Bishop Gorman Centennial matchup. Then we'll huddle up and kind of review what we've talked about today on the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. Jordan, first of all, let's get into something that we saw yesterday on Twitter. Arizona Varsity's Ralph Amsden put out an article about the transfer policies here in Arizona high school football.
Yeah.
First impressions, what are your takeaways from this article?
I think Ralph nailed it right on the head, nail on the head. The title of it is Opinion, It's Hypocritical and Short-Sighted to Punish Arizona's Transfers. And he goes in depth on and touches on a lot of different things regarding the viewpoint of transfers. I saw that his associate and our good friend Chili used the term a scarlet letter for transfers, and a lot of it comes down to them having to prove hardships. And essentially, the argument that he makes is if someone was transferring for a better education, or someone was there was a better band program, there was a better fine arts program, no one would really bat an eye. But because there might be a better opportunity at another school for athletics, and I think it's across the board, but I think we're really kind of honing in on football right now. This is a football show.
But it is across all high school sports.
Yeah,
yes.
that there is a lot, there's a bit of a stigma that comes with it, and a lot of it comes down to when you're in the real world and you go find a better opportunity for a job, or it's that school situation that's outside of athletics. A lot of it comes down to because I wanted to try to better myself and better the opportunities for my family. Now, have some people gone overboard with that? Sure, potentially. Is every transfer squeaky clean and by the rules? Probably not. No matter what situation, you're always going to have that. But trying to limit them to the term he used was regionally bound to that. If you think you have a better opportunity elsewhere to potentially go play at the college level, not have that potential debt that may come with going to college, whether it's academically or athletically, I think you should take that. So it's very well thought out. I encourage everyone to go ahead and check that out on Arizona Varsity, because I think Ralph really nailed it there. What were your thoughts regarding that?
For me, it was transfers may transfer to a school because it has a better football program or better opportunity to get to the next level and play at the next level, but they still have to earn their spot.
Yeah.
It's still a matter of transferring and earning a spot. So you may have a kid that transfers and there's a kid that's already there who is better than him. So he's not guaranteed playing time.
Right.
He's still going to have to earn that. For me, I'm a native in Indiana, and we had a lot of issues where if a kid wasn't playing at a school, that resulted in a transfer because he wasn't playing, so he wanted playing time. So you have a depth issue here too, where kids want the opportunity to play, and yes, maybe they want the opportunity to play to get noticed by colleges, but maybe they also want to have the opportunity to play because they love the game. And you mentioned that there's some not so good intentions with all of this in some cases, but that's not the case for all of that. And you have those instances where kids are transferring because they want to play the game.
Right. And one thing that I want to bring up, I hear the term a lot, giving guys credit for sticking with the guys that they grew up with. I think this day and age, and Ralph kind of references it, where you're thinking back to, where there was a high school in one high school in one area. Now the way high schools are popping up, there's a lot of crossover. When you go to the Southeast Valley, there's Pop Warner teams all across, and they're playing together, and those are guys that could be going to Chandler, could be going to Perry, could be going to Queen Creek, Castile. It's all mixed together.
Sometimes that dividing line is across the street for school districts. So you may have one kid that's going to Highland and one kid that's going to Hamilton. They live right across the street from each other.
So I think the argument of grow with the guys you grew up with social media especially as well, when these guys are in middle school and they're already on social media, the world's getting a lot smaller. So it might be the guys they've grown up with, and they go join them at another school. So I don't love that argument. And
nowadays it's a community in high school football anyways.
Right.
Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy who, I played high school baseball. I'd like to think I was pretty good. I wasn't a headline guy by any means, but I think I was pretty good. And kind of the last straw when I decided to kind of walk away from the sport was a transfer came in who ended up being a D1 athlete. And he kind of took my spot. So I understand the frustration with that, but looking back, I don't think my high school experience was knocked off by any way. In some ways, it might have been enriched that I could kind of go dive headfirst into journalism and kind of not focus
Find your other avenues, yeah.
So I know it's going to be a hotly debated topic, and Ralph never really shies away from that, and I really respect him for that.
It's a good conversation to have, though.
Yeah, absolutely. There's pros and cons to everything within the transfer process and the transfer rules that are sent down by the AIA, but I think that tweaks need to be made, and I think with David Hines as the executive director, he's been very receptive to change. So I think that
facilitating
they could,
change and easing into it. Yeah.
So they could really improve this process as well.
Let's get into breaking down some Week 2 action now. We're going to start out with Boulder Creek at Highland. Popped out to Highland on Tuesday night to check out practice over there. Connor Collimore is having an absolutely amazing first couple of games. He had a passing touchdown in the first game, 190 rushing yards, 10 solo tackles, was just playing all over the field here. Daniel Wood's another guy to watch in the backfield too. He's got that run game pretty down. He actually has more rushing yards than Collimore does. And then Caleb Herbert at quarterback, and they've got a pretty solid offensive line too. I know that they had some guys that left and there were some holes there, but they've got good lines on both sides of the ball. And last week they had a game against Hamilton that ended up in a big win for the Hawks.
Right.
Split that game between Friday and Saturday. And I talked to Coach Brock Farrell about kind of what the logistics were behind that. And he's like, well, it wasn't too hard to come back on Saturday morning. It was just a matter of the sleep that he lost on Friday night because that adrenaline was still there. You want to play this football game and get it done. So going to be a good one against Boulder Creek. They're 1-0. They got to win against Skyline in week 1. So keeping an eye on this matchup.
Which I think was a bit of a surprise to many, the win over Skyline. Skyline's a really good team. Looks like Boulder Creek came out swinging. But Highland, they have a lot of depth. They have, and it's kind of just crazy to see kind of the turnaround Brock Farrell's been able to have just in a couple of years. They seem to start off hot under Brock Farrell because last year they started 5-0. Now they're 2-0, looking to go 3-0. And another guy that I want to mention is Austin McNamara, who's one of the top kickers and punters. So they have
all the tools there.
They play that special teams game really well where they can, and I have a feeling they're going to be in a lot of close games, and I feel like that can really make a difference. I said that about Horizon a couple weeks ago with Cole Johnson, who's committed to Air Force. Austin McNamara is a really sought-after college prospect right now and talking to some pretty big programs, but he's a guy that can impact in the punting game, the field position game, as well as knocking down a couple of big field goals.
Some good stuff over there at Highland.
Yeah.
Let's get into Perry at Red Mountain. For Perry, a tough loss to Pinnacle in week 0. Came back out, got a big win against Mason Mountain View in week 1. You're looking at this matchup. Trevor Purdy at quarterback, some other key offensive guys there for Perry. What are you seeing on Red Mountain's side?
Red Mountain, going into last year, they talked about kind of transitioning to kind of a Stanford setup with their offense, and I think they're really embracing that this year. They have 2 running backs, Ty McElroy and Jaquel Garner. They're 2 guys that are having really strong starts to their season. Mike Patterson was the OC, now the head coach the past couple of years, and it's just a stingy defense, just like Stanford, and they have some big offensive linemen up front, and they just like to run the ball and then have the pass complement them there. For Perry, it's, again, we have a Purdy under center in Chubba, and he's spread the ball around really well. 5 guys with the 6 touchdown passes that he has had. So, and it seems like they kind of have a 3-headed monster in the backfield as well. So a lot of playmakers for Perry, and Red Mountain just you never really want to count them out, and it seems like teams don't really want to play them the first couple of weeks of the playoffs as well, because it seems like they really kind of hit their stride second half. So 2 really good teams, and I think this is a kind of a stacked lineup for week 2. I think this is a more underrated game.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with you there. And you mentioned that pass game for Red Mountain. Ramses Ramirez wide receiver. He's averaging 27 yards per catch in these first 2 games, so keeping an eye on him in that game. Sunrise Mountain at Liberty, what do you got with this one?
Again, we talked about Sunrise Mountain last week, strength for strength. Again, the passing game of Keegan Freed. This is a team that doesn't lose many football games, no matter if they're at 5A, if they're playing 4A. They have a lot of really diverse playmakers, and just another year under Keegan Freed. Like Chase Cord, his predecessor, it seemed like Chase Cord really hit his stride as a senior and really kind of changed the way he played. He went to the air a lot more than he rushed. We'll see how Keegan Freed does that. He's a commit to Air Force. They love those running quarterbacks. And then on Liberty's side, again, this is a defense that does not give up many points. Ryan Puskis, Braxton Croteau, they are the 2 leaders there, but it's typically a very deep defense that just loves to wreak havoc. So again, it's a strength versus strength, one of the better rivalries in the state, and it seems to be not really the first one that people mention when you talk about great Arizona rivalries, but this is a very decorated rivalry that's gone back for quite a while.
The action is heating up here with high school football. When we come back, we're going to have Cactus head coach Joseph Ortiz. Keep it right here on the Friday Night 360 AZ Preview Show.